5:40 in the morning, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Dorothy is 68 years old, a retired third-grade teacher, and she is standing at her kitchen counter, waiting for the coffee maker, wearing the smartwatch her daughter Katie gave her for Christmas. Dorothy checks the watch every single day. She checks her steps. She checks the weather. And every single day she scrolls right past a small number labeled HRV without ever tapping on it. In January, that number averaged 51. By the third week of September, it had slid to 44, then 38, then 31, morning after morning, a quiet staircase going down. Dorothy felt fine, a little tired after lunch, a little thirstier than usual, nothing she would ever call a doctor about. 3 weeks later, at a routine checkup, her fasting blood sugar came back at 139 milligrams per deciliter, and her doctor said the words, type 2 diabetes. Her blood work from the previous April had been completely normal. The lab caught it in October. The watch on her wrist may have been whispering about it since Labor Day, and nobody had ever told her which number to look at. In the next 25 minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly what that number is, how the nerve that controls your heartbeat is wired directly into the organs that control your blood sugar, the exact 5-step morning routine for reading this number correctly after 60. The single mistake that makes almost every home reading worthless, and the moment when a strange reading stops being about variability and becomes something more urgent, like atrial fibrillation, that needs a phone call to your doctor. And there is one more thing. There is a reason Dorothy's spring blood work looked perfect while this was already underway, and that reason is the entire key to this video. I will get to it. Because it is the part almost nobody explains. Here is exactly what I am going to walk you through today. Promise number 1 is what HRV actually measures, in plain English, and why your own 3-week baseline matters more than any chart of normal ranges you will ever find online. Promise number 2 is the mechanism, the specific nerve, the vagus nerve, that connects the timing of your heartbeat to your liver, your pancreas, and your blood sugar. So you understand why one number can hint at the other. Promise number 3 is 3 more stories like Dorothy's, 3 different people, 3 different patterns, so you can recognize which one looks like you. Promise number 4 is the 5-step morning protocol. When to measure, what to write down, what a real warning trend looks like versus a meaningless bad morning, and the exact sentence to say to your doctor when you bring the data in. And promise number 5 is the mistake, the one habit that ruins the reading for most people over 60, plus the critical difference between a low variability number and an irregular rhythm alert, because confusing those two is genuinely dangerous. Before we go further, let me be clear about who is talking to you. I am not your physician, and this video is education, not medical advice. What I do is spend my working hours inside the published medical research on aging, heart rhythm, and metabolism, and translate it into the specifics that a rushed 15-minute appointment never has time to cover. Every claim I make today, I will tell you where it comes from. And do me a favor while we are here. Drop your age in the comments and tell me whether you wear a watch or a fitness band that tracks your heart. I read those comments, and they shape what I cover next. Now let me take you back to Dorothy's kitchen because the details matter. Dorothy taught 3rd grade in Cedar Rapids for 31 years. She retired in 2017. She walks her neighborhood loop most mornings, about 1.5 miles, and she has worn that watch since Christmas of 2023. The watch measures her heart every night while she sleeps, and every morning it produces a small report. Steps, sleep hours, resting heart rate, and heart rate variability, HRV, measured in milliseconds. Through the winter and spring, Dorothy's overnight HRV sat in a band between 48 and 54. Her morning resting heart rate sat around 66 beats per minute. Those two numbers were her signature. Steady, boring. Hers. The first week of September, the HRV reading came in at 44. Dorothy did not notice because she never opened that screen. The second week, 40, and then 38. Her resting heart rate, meanwhile, had drifted up from 66 to 73. Not dramatic, not a single day that would alarm anyone. Just two lines on a graph slowly crossing, one falling, one rising, week after week. During those same weeks, Dorothy was refilling her water glass more often. She was getting up once, sometimes twice a night to use the bathroom. She was skipping the back half of her walking loop because her legs felt heavy by the halfway mark. She blamed the September heat. She blamed her age. She blamed nothing at all because none of it felt like a symptom. It felt like life. On October 14th, at her annual wellness visit, the fasting glucose came back at 139 milligrams per deciliter. Her hemoglobin A1C was 6.9%. Her doctor was kind and direct. "This is type 2 diabetes, and we caught it at a routine visit, which is lucky." Dorothy went home, sat at her kitchen table, and for the first time in 10 months, she opened the HRV screen on her watch and scrolled back through the year. She saw the staircase. January through August, a flat, steady line around 51. September, a slide that ended at 31, right around the time her body started quietly rationing energy and dumping sugar into her urine at night. And here's what nobody told her. Her spring blood work was not wrong. It was just a photograph, one frozen instant, taken months before anything had shifted. A blood test tells you where your metabolism stood on one morning. The watch was taking a photograph every single night, and photographs taken every night become a film. Dorothy is a composite of a pattern, not one specific patient, but the pattern she represents is the reason for this entire video. Because millions of Americans over 60 are wearing a device that records that film. And almost none of them have ever been shown how to watch it. So let's open up the mechanism, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Heart rate variability is not your heart rate. Your heart rate is how many times your heart beats in a minute. HRV measures something stranger and more interesting: the tiny differences in timing between one beat and the next. A healthy heart is not a metronome. If your heart is beating 60 times a minute, it is not beating exactly once per second. One gap might be 0.98 seconds, the next one 0.04, the next one 0.01. Those little fluctuations, measured in milliseconds, are the variability. And here is the counterintuitive part that trips almost everyone up. More variability is generally the healthy signal. A heart with flexible, shifting gaps between beats is a heart being actively steered, moment by moment, by your nervous system. A heart ticking with rigid, machine-like sameness is often a heart whose steering has gone quiet. Who is doing the steering? Your autonomic nervous system, the automatic control network you never think about, and above all, a single remarkable cable called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs from your brainstem down through your neck and chest into your abdomen, and it is the main brake line of your body. When the vagus nerve is active, your heart slows and the gaps between beats dance. That is high variability. When your body shifts into stress mode, the accelerator side, the sympathetic system, takes over. The vagal brake lifts, your heart speeds up, and the gaps flatten out. Variability drops. Now here is the part that connects your heartbeat to your blood sugar. That same vagus nerve, that same brake line, does not stop at your heart. It continues down and wires into your liver, your pancreas, and your gut, the exact organs that run your metabolism. The same automatic system that decides the spacing of your heartbeats is helping decide when your liver releases stored sugar, how your pancreas responds to a meal, and how inflamed your tissues are running. So when that whole control system tilts towards stress and away from recovery, two things tend to move together. The timing of your heartbeat gets more rigid, which you can see on a wrist device, and your metabolic regulation gets sloppier, which for a long stretch you cannot feel at all. The HRV number is the visible edge of an invisible process. Now, I want to be honest with you about where the hard science stands, because this is your health, and you deserve precision, not hype. Researchers have not handed us a neat rule that says your smartwatch HRV predicts a diabetes diagnosis 30 days out. What the published evidence does show is striking enough on its own. A 2024 study in the Journal of Clinical Monitoring and Computing looked at continuously monitored hospital patients and found that heart rate variability carried real predictive value for serious adverse events and mortality within the following 30 days. Those were sick, hospitalized patients with medical-grade monitoring, not retirees with wristwatches, and I will not pretend otherwise. But it establishes the core principle. The rhythm of the heart carries forward-looking information about what the body is heading into weeks before it arrives. And a 2024 cohort study in the Journal of Medical Internet Research pushed the idea onto consumer wearables, showing that machine learning applied to wearable sensor data, combined with reported symptoms, could help distinguish people who had influenza during the latent and early period of the illness, before it had fully declared itself. The body broadcasts its trouble early. The signal is in the data. The question is only whether anyone is listening. Which brings us back to Dorothy's April blood work. It was a snapshot of a system that had not yet tipped. The nightly recordings on her wrist were sampling the control system itself, the thing that tips first. That is the answer to the loop I opened at the start, and it is the single most important idea in this video. Your labs measure the consequences. Your morning rhythm reflects the controller. Now let me show you 3 more people, because Dorothy's pattern is only one of the shapes this takes. Robert is 74, a retired electrician from Toledo, Ohio. Robert does not own a smartwatch and thinks they are ridiculous. But Robert has a blood pressure cuff on his nightstand, the kind that also displays pulse, and Robert is a man of habits. So he has a spiral notebook going back 4 years. In 2022, his morning pulse hovered around 66. Through 2024, it drifted 69, 73, 78, and by last fall, it was sitting at 84, morning after morning. Every one of those numbers is inside the range the Mayo Clinic describes as normal for adults, 60 to 100 beats per minute. So Robert shrugged. And that shrug is the trap, because the research treats resting heart rate not as a pass-fail test, but as a graded dial. A review in Progress in Cardiovascular Diseases found that resting heart rate is a strong, graded, independent marker of risk for cardiovascular disease and death. Graded meaning risk climbs as the number climbs, even within the so-called normal zone. A 2014 Dutch medical review reached the same conclusion, that an elevated resting heart rate is independently related to developing cardiovascular disease and to premature death from all causes. And a study published in the journal Heart Rhythm, following nearly 110,000 adults in China, examined resting heart rate together with predicted cardiovascular risk and their combined relationship with mortality. An 18-point climb over 3 years is not a normal reading. It is a trend wearing a normal reading as a disguise. Robert's notebook was screaming, politely, in a language nobody had taught him to read. Margaret is 69, from Sacramento, and her story is the opposite kind of warning. Margaret watched a video like this one, got interested in her heart data, and one Tuesday morning her watch showed something that thrilled her. Her heart rhythm looked wildly variable, gaps all over the place. She thought, wonderful, high variability, I must be doing something right. She was dizzy that morning, and more tired than usual, and her heart fluttered when she carried laundry up the stairs, but the number looked good, so she waited. What Margaret actually had was atrial fibrillation. The National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute describes atrial fibrillation as a common arrhythmia, and the National Library of Medicine's Medline Plus notes it produces an irregular and often faster heartbeat, with symptoms exactly like Margaret's, dizziness and fatigue. Please burn this into your memory. Healthy variability is a subtle, millisecond-level dance around a regular rhythm. Atrial fibrillation is chaos, an irregular rhythm, and it is a medical condition that needs a doctor, not a wellness trend to celebrate. If your device ever shows an irregular rhythm notification, or your pulse feels like it is stumbling, skipping, and racing without a pattern, that is not a high score. That is a phone call. The same urgency applies at the top end. Both the Cleveland Clinic and the Mayo Clinic publish guidance on tachycardia, a heart rate that runs abnormally high, and a resting pulse repeatedly above 100 while you are calm in a chair deserves a conversation with your physician, not a note in a wellness journal. Frank is 77, from Wilmington, North Carolina, and Frank's situation shows how much these numbers matter when something else is already going on. Frank has stage 3 chronic kidney disease, managed, stable, monitored twice a year. His blood pressure runs on the low side of normal, and Frank took that as proof that his heart, at least, was the one system he did not have to worry about. But his resting heart rate told a different story, parked in the high 80s for over a year. Here the evidence is direct. A 2024 study in Scientific Reports followed 1,353 patients with chronic kidney disease who were not on dialysis, and found that an elevated resting heart rate was associated with death from all causes and with adverse clinical outcomes. For someone like Frank, that number is not trivia. It is one of the more informative numbers he owns, and neither he nor anyone in his family knew to watch it. 3 people, 3 patterns. The slow climb hiding inside the normal range. The chaos misread as a good score. The overlooked number in a person already managing a chronic disease. Look at your own wrist, your own notebook, your own nightstand cuff, and ask which one is closest to you. So now the payoff. Here is exactly what to do, in order, starting tomorrow morning. Step 1. Establish your own baseline before you interpret anything. For the next 21 mornings, measure at the same time, in the same way. If you wear a watch that reads HRV overnight, just check the same screen with your morning coffee still unpoured. If you use a cuff or your fingers, take your resting pulse after sitting quietly for 5 full minutes, before caffeine, before your walk, before the news. Write down 2 numbers every day, resting heart rate and, if your device provides it, HRV in milliseconds. Do not judge a single one of those mornings. You are not looking for a verdict yet. You are drawing the flat line that every future reading will be compared against. This matters because HRV varies enormously from person to person and generally declines with age. So a number that would be alarming in a 30-year-old can be a perfectly steady baseline in a 75-year-old. The published charts cannot know you. 21 mornings of your own data can. Step 2. Once you have a baseline, watch trends and ignore single days. One low morning means almost nothing. A glass of wine with dinner, a poor night of sleep, a head cold, an argument with your brother on the phone, any of these can dent tomorrow's number. The pattern that deserves your attention is a sustained slide. Your HRV sitting meaningfully below your own baseline for 2 to 3 consecutive weeks, especially a stepwise fall like Dorothy's staircase. Weekly averages are your friend here. Average your 7 mornings every Sunday and compare Sundays. Single days lie, months do not. Step 3. Always read the 2 numbers as a pair, because the pair is more informative than either alone. The pattern that ties together everything in the research we walked through is the scissor, HRV drifting down while resting heart rate drifts up, week over week. That is the signature of a nervous system easing off the brake and leaning on the accelerator. And given what that same control system does to your liver and pancreas, it is a pattern worth taking seriously, even when every individual reading still sits inside the normal range Medline Plus lists for adult vital signs. One climbing number is a question. The scissor is a pattern. Step 4. Know the 2 readings that skip the trend watching entirely and go straight to your doctor. First, any irregular rhythm alert from your device, or a pulse you can feel stumbling and racing without rhythm, because atrial fibrillation presents exactly that way, and it needs evaluation, not observation. Second, a resting heart rate repeatedly above 100 while you are calm and seated, which is the territory of tachycardia. Trends are for the subtle stuff. These 2 are not subtle, and they are not do-it-yourself projects. Step 5. Bring the data to your doctor the right way, because how you present it determines whether it gets used or politely ignored. Do not walk in and say, "My watch seems off." Walk in with your notebook or a printed screenshot and say this sentence. Over the past 6 weeks, my morning heart rate variability has fallen about 30% below my established baseline, while my resting heart rate has risen 8 to 10 beats, and I would like to talk about whether we should look at my metabolic labs or review my medications. That sentence works because it contains a time frame, a magnitude, your own baseline, and a specific request. It converts a vague worry into a clinical question. And one caution inside this step. Several common medications change these numbers directly. Beta blockers, such as metoprolol, are designed to lower heart rate, so if you take one, your low resting rate is expected, and your baseline simply gets built around it. Never, ever adjust a heart or blood pressure medication yourself because of something a wristwatch told you. The data is for the conversation. The decisions belong in that exam room. Now, the mistake I promised at the very beginning, the one that makes most home readings worthless, and then one advanced move almost nobody uses. The mistake is measuring at random moments and comparing yourself to other people. Checking HRV at 2 in the afternoon after a coffee, then Thursday evening after yard work, then once the following week after climbing the stairs, produces numbers that bounce around meaninglessly, and then a chart on the internet built mostly from data on younger adults convinces you that your number is terrible. Wrong moments, wrong reference. Everything in this video depends on same time, same conditions, compared against yourself. If you take nothing else from these 25 minutes, take that. Now the advanced move, the recovery window. The next time you get sick with a cold, the flu, anything that knocks you flat for a few days, keep measuring every morning and count how many days your HRV takes to climb back to your personal baseline after you feel better. That recovery time is a piece of information almost nobody collects. A rough look at how much reserve your automatic control system is carrying, and it makes an excellent specific note to share with your doctor, especially if each illness seems to take longer to recover from than the last. It fits, too, with where the research is heading, since that Journal of Medical Internet Research study found wearable data shifting during the earliest phase of influenza, before people fully knew they were sick. 2 caveats. If you have a pacemaker, or you have diagnosed atrial fibrillation, wrist-based HRV readings are generally not reliable for you, so this move does not apply, and your rhythm is already a conversation between you and your cardiologist. And a slow recovery after illness is a data point to discuss, not a diagnosis to panic over. Let me bring this home. Dorothy's watch recorded the staircase for 6 weeks, while her spring lab results sat in a folder saying everything was fine. The lab was photographing consequences. The watch was filming the controller. That is the entire lesson. After 60, the most useful health numbers you own may be the 2 your device already collects every night: your resting heart rate and your heart rate variability, read as a pair, tracked against your own baseline, averaged weekly, and carried into your doctor's office as a specific, dated trend instead of a vague feeling that something is off. The research we walk through today, from heart rhythm to scientific reports, to the hospital monitoring data in the Journal of Clinical Monitoring and Computing, keeps arriving at the same quiet conclusion, that the rhythm of the heart carries forward-looking information about the body it belongs to. 21 mornings, 2 numbers, 1 notebook. That is the whole assignment, and it costs nothing but attention. And remember what this video is and is not. It is education, built from published research, so you can walk into your next appointment informed and specific. It is not medical advice, And nothing here replaces your own physician, who knows your history, your medications, and your kidneys, your heart, and your labs in a way no video ever could. Start the baseline tomorrow morning. Your body has been broadcasting this signal every night for years. From tomorrow on, someone will finally be listening. If this was worth your time, hit the like button so it reaches one more person who wears a watch and has never opened that screen. And subscribe, because next week I am covering the morning blood pressure mistake that makes millions of home readings misleading. I will see you in the next video.